terms with the fact that you don't have an average job?
You guys having fun at the convention?
But we haven't seen you in months.
What happened to your eye?
Somebody fouled me at the game.
What game?
The one you missed.
And summer break's just a few days away.
We should do something. Strictly family time.
Come on, kids. It can be an adventure.
Let's do this.
I am just so happy that we're all together.
Hey, city boy.
Hey,
Get out of here. Let's go right now.
I understand protecting your sister, but there are other ways to handle things. I left my phone.
Hutch, no!
Yo, I like your way better.
What the hell, Hutch? On our first day?
I think I stumbled into something.
You're vacationing in an old bootlegging route, full of drugs, crooked cops, and one woman who controls it all. You didn't take your family there, did you?
Yeah.
You'll want to de-escalate the situation.
De-escalate. No escalating. Guys, I'm not gonna fight you. I'm here on vacation.
Find this nobody.
Scorched earth.
I just want a break.
There's no way you were just some family man.
We all have different sides. But most of all, you're a dad. Go fix this shit.
I told you.
I'm on fucking vacation!
Good morning, everyone. This is Read the Room Productions, episode 20 podcast. And today I have a special guest. He's a former Fox Sports radio host. He also is my father. He is the reason that brought me to this new title of Read the Room Productions. Please welcome to the show, my dad, Doug Merrill.
Hi, Andrew.
Hey, Dad, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that. So today we're going to discuss a few things on this show, and number one will be Nobody 2 trailer that everybody watched. And so what is fascinating about the sequel to the original movie that came out in 2021? And will this second movie have any high expectations?
Well, first of all, Andrew, again, thanks for having me on the phone, and congratulations on your show. I hear it's doing a great job, and you're catching on with a lot of new followers. So again, everybody, please like and subscribe to Andrew's new channel, and I'll share it with some of my folks as well. But again, congrats on the new show. Andrew, in regards to Nobody 2, it's interesting because you took me to that first movie, and I had no idea what it was about. It was basically kind of like a shoot 'em up, and action movie that I remember in the 80s and 90s as something like a Sly Stallone or Arnold Schwarzenegger type movie, but it's an action film. And so the second movie I would suspect is going to be very similar to that. So as far as expectations go, I wouldn't think that this movie has a lot of high expectations. Pretty much the folks that went to see the first are going to be the ones that come to see the second one. They're going in there hoping to see an action film. Again, shoot 'em up, bang 'em up, kill 'em up, that type of a movie. So not a ton of drama. Every movie has a storyline, so I suspect, of course, this one will as well. But as far as high expectations and draw to come see the movie, it's your typical action film. So I would expect that it probably won't draw as many folks as it did the first one, but I think it'll do well and make some money.
I agree. I believe Nobody 2 is going to be a very good movie. I see it being very fun. I compared it to the sequel to the original Vacation movie because if you heard the Holiday Road song, it builds up towards, more of like John Wick fighting against a bunch of goons on vacation. So it should be very fun. All right. Subject number 2, we are talking about the new Harry Potter reboot TV series. Where does this timeline fit? So it's a new series, so it has nothing to do with the original movies that came out in our generation. But here's the biggest question. Will the new generation embrace the new TV series?
Well, I'm glad you touched on the timeline because I think when you get into a series of movies like a Star Wars, or that's the first example I'd come to. People would always like to know where it fits in the timeline. Harry Potter is no different. You've got the original 6, 7, 8 movies or 9, whatever, however many movies Harry Potter had, and then you had that prequel, and then there's cartoons and things like that, I believe. So people always want to know where it fits in the timeline. So I'm glad that you said it doesn't fit in the timeline at all. It's really a separate entity in it of itself. This is a J.K. Rowling's production, and it's a TV series. So I think the real question here is, can J.K. Rowling's, can she strike gold twice? Can she create another miracle as she did with the Harry Potter series? We'll see. My other take on that was I had to Google when the very first Harry Potter was created and the last one. Talking 20 years ago, maybe a little more since the first one was made. So we're really trying to capture a whole new generation, aren't we? We're trying to get a whole new set of folks to gravitate to another creation of J.K. Rowling. She's got a great track record. You got to be careful with these types of things because it possibly could tarnish what you did in the first time. I doubt that with J.K. She's had her own struggles in the past anyway. But this could be a way for her to put herself right back onto the map. So again, I think the question with this series will be, can she strike gold again? Can she create a second miracle? And I'll give it a shot and watch it to see if she can. I'm rooting for her.
I like that. I like how you said that, giving J.K. Rowling some ideas. Hopefully, like what people have told me too was J.K. Rowling is trying to get some of the stuff that she wrote in the book to be into the series. So in the movies, they cut some of that out because of, movie runtime and stuff like that. This could be a very fascinating show if done right. So we'll see what J.K. Rowling can do for the next TV show, or, the new reboot to the TV series. And so we finally have the 3 actors casted as Hermione, Harry, and Ron. We'll see when it comes out of next year. Alex Garland is set to direct a live adaptation to the Elden Ring video game. The biggest question is, will it be a cash grab versus sticking to the source material of these video games?
Well, my instinct would be that they're all cash grabs, right? Everybody's got to make money, otherwise studios die. I have no doubt that there is passion involved with the creator, as there will be some anticipation to go see this with those that play that game. My generation, unless there's folks that play this, probably this would not appeal to. The first video game I ever played was Pong, so I'm dating myself a little bit. And then I graduated, I believe it was to Atari, and then ColecoVision, and then the regular Nintendo, and then there's been a million gaming systems since then, and I haven't really played. So it doesn't really appeal to me. But the question was, is it a cash grab or is there some kind of creativity involved in this? I would not expect much. I think it is obviously a cash grab more than it is anything else. But the passionate folks that play this game will go and see this. Will it make some money? If it does, I'll just say that I'm surprised that there's so many that are involved with this gaming thing. It's been a long time since I would consider myself a gamer in any way, shape, or form. So, but I'm sure it does have its audience, and we'll see how it plays out with the box office.
I agree. I believe most video game adaptations have been good, and some of them have been terrible. But with Elden Ring, with my generation, that came out like a few years ago, where there's a lot of people online who play it, But of course, you have to stick to the source material if you want to make a lot of money. If you just throw in stuff that nobody cares for, then it's not going to do well. So we'll see when it comes out next year by A24. I trust them. They're a low budget company. They usually do pretty good. Kieran Culkin and Elle Fanning are playing roles of Caesar Flickerman and Elfie Trinket in the new Hunger Games movie, Sunrise of the Reaping, the second prequel movie about Haymitch's story. And so Caesar Flickerman, who you don't know, is a game show host that was played by Stanley Tucci in the Hunger Games movie. And Elfie Trinket was played by Elizabeth Banks in the original movie. She is the escort for District 12, who was the one who helped out Katniss and Peeta get to the Capitol, get ready for the games. And so the biggest question for this is, what is the expectations of the Hunger Games prequel, including the storyline and those two actors, and more actors in this movie?
It's a good question, and we come back to the expectation question when it comes to this film. I think the expectations are much higher when it comes to a Hunger Games association than it would be in some of the previous movies that we had just discussed. Expectations are high because the Hunger Games did extremely well. People went to see this movie to see what comes next. It was the storyline that captivated them, and of course the actors and actresses that played the roles in the Hunger Games. So they're going about it the right way. Haymitch was a very popular character within the Hunger Games series, played by Woody Harrelson. So the actor that's going to play that same role is going to have some pressure put on. Woody Harrelson sets a high bar. But I will go and see this movie with a lot more anticipation than I will the previous movies that we discussed. Because I would like to see a little bit more from the Haymitch character. And the other thing that strikes me with this is you had mentioned that Kieran Culkin is going to play a role in this movie. I laugh a little bit because we do remember seeing Kieran in some of the movies with his brother when they were younger. The first one would be Home Alone. A lot of people don't realize that the kid that wet his pants all the time was his brother. It was played by Kieran. So there's almost been a flip, really, hasn't there? Because Macaulay Culkin was the one. Kieran was Macaulay's brother, but Kieran has had much more success in adult life. He's won an Academy Award, won an Oscar. I believe it was last year or the year before. And now he's landing some of these roles because he's a really good actor. And now I think we're at a point where people are going to say that Macaulay is Kieran's brother. People in my age group are a little older, maybe will never forget Macaulay, of course, because he's an icon on everybody's TVs for the holidays with Home Alone and some of the other things that he's done. But I'm rooting for Kieran, of course. I think he's doing a great job. I'm rooting for this movie. I will go see it. But I do think that expectations are high. So we'll see how this plays out.
Yeah, so Kieran, for sure, no doubt. He definitely was one of the big time actors from all the TV shows he was in. I remember he was in the show, I believe it was Suits, or it was like a big business show. And of course, he was in other films that probably nobody's ever talked about. I remember he was in Scott Pilgrim. I remember he was also in this, like that movie you mentioned, A Real Pain, where he won an Oscar award for. And it was a really good film. I really do recommend a lot of people to check this out. And seeing Kieran Culkin from a child star from Home Alone now into like the big time actor, and Macaulay from kid to adult hasn't done anything since. But yeah, I'm rooting for Kieran. I believe he's going to do really good as Caesar Flickerman. He kind of reminds me of Stanley Tucci a bit in his younger years. And have Elle Fanning as Elfie Trinket, who Elizabeth Banks plays. I could see her play like a cool role, or a good role, I would say, towards her personality. And seeing this on the screen as two of these young actors playing their roles should be very exciting for next year. So I can't wait for this. Right, moving on to Avengers Doomsday. So this movie got pushed back to December 2026. The same day Dune Messiah is coming out in next year of December 2026. Here's the big question. Will Warner Brothers compete with Disney, or will they push it back to the spring of March or move it forward to Thanksgiving?
Two things strike me with this. As far as the question of will they move it and do they want to compete, I think competition is a good thing. That being said, that'll be a decision that will be made later. If they moved it up, say to Thanksgiving, I think they win. If they compete over the holidays with Christmas, I think they win. If they push it back to the spring, maybe, maybe not. But that'll be a decision that's made later with people that think they're much smarter than you and I are. I think what strikes me with those two movies is they both have followings, right? They both have followings. I will go see both of them. Dune took me a while to get on board with. To me, it was just a slow developing movie from the first one. I stuck with it. I get it. I watched the subsequent movies that followed it. I'll watch this one. It will come with less anticipation for me than, say, the Marvel one. What strikes me with this Marvel one is it's going to have a lot of these characters back in it. I got to be honest with you. I was a fan of the Marvel series, but it lost me in two ways. One, they started doing the time travel thing, which I'm not a big fan of. And number two, it was so convoluted. There was just so many characters that only the diehard Marvel people would understand it. The folks that just really dive into this, they would understand all that. Your average person that hasn't seen but maybe one or two Marvel movies, it's tough to follow. There's so many characters. There's so many spinoffs. There's so many universes and all these other things that it gets a little muddied. If it were me, I would give the whole thing a rest for about 10 years, maybe 15, and then reboot it with new characters and things of that nature. They won't do that because they continue to make money. I'll watch them both. I will probably be a little bit more excited to watch the Marvel movie than I will Dune, but we'll see. We'll see but they both have followings, and the diehards will go and see it. As far as the competition goes, I love it. If they aren't going to release it at the same time, I'd move one up to Thanksgiving.
I agree with this too, because seeing these two movies are, like you said, they have both fan bases that are both like really exciting. Like one is more sci-fi adventure for Dune, while the other is all superhero and action stuff. And when you mention time travel, of course, not everybody is interested in the whole multiverse, alternate variations, universes, stuff like that. What fascinated me about Avengers Doomsday was how, like, they brought everybody back, but there's like a few things that really stood up to me. Was Robert Downey Jr. being back as Doctor Doom, and the odd part is he was Iron Man, now he's playing a villain, and now it's all going to be a whole universe where he's the big villain. And so the question is for a lot of people is, will they get through Robert Downey Jr. playing a villain, and will this universe, like you said, they'll reboot it in the next few years after Secret Wars. So after Doomsday, there's another movie, Secret Wars, and then go through on there, and then Doom Messiah, of course. It's going to be the third movie, and it's going to be a big conclusion to the trilogy, and then they can make prequels and spin-off and so forth. So it's going to be a big year for movies like this. So, moving on to Mission Impossible review. And so what stood out to me was the action was good, the plot was a bit mixed. The stunts, though, amazing, probably the best of the whole entire series. And compare it to the other Mission Impossible movies, my rating for this movie was an 8. So my question for you is, what did you rate this movie of the last Mission Impossible movie, and how would you compare it to the other movies you've seen?
Well, to talk about the Mission Impossible series, you have to discuss Tom Cruise, because Mission Impossible has become Tom Cruise. And this doesn't get said a whole lot, but the Mission Impossible movies this has been a lifetime body of work for Tom Cruise. We think of him as Top Gun, playing the pilot, fighter pilot. We may also think of him as playing a lawyer, A Few Good Men, The Firm. He plays serious roles, a few non-serious, but for the most part, Tom Cruise, anybody that, there's about 3 buckets of people that when discussing Tom Cruise, there are 3 groups. Those that like him, those that don't, those that do but won't say that they do. Which those folks are hilarious, because they always say, oh, he did a great job here, but he's into Scientology, which I think is ridiculous. Who cares? But he's a great actor. I would also say that Tom Cruise is the example of why I think the Academy Awards discredit themselves. and lose it. He's another example of why they lose viewership, and somewhat of a joke, because you've got a guy like this, to my knowledge, has not won an Academy Award. If he did, it was some thing as a group or whatever. But for him not to win an individual Academy Award or an Oscar, and I apologize if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am, I think that's ridiculous. As far as the Mission Impossible goes, I did not go to see that with the same anticipation that I did, say, Top Gun 2. But I did go looking forward to it. I was excited to go see Mission Impossible, and they did not fail me. Also, the part that he does his own stunts. That's impressive. There's not very many people out there that can say that they do the things that he does. Hopefully it won't, knock on wood, but that could be the end of him one day. I mean, you just can't keep doing and taking the risks that he does. But he's a risk taker, and so far most of them have paid off for him. I gave it a 9. The fact that he did his own stunts and the storyline worked, to me, made this movie a 9. I don't give out 10s. I always think that there's room for improvement with whatever it is that you're doing in life. So it gets a pretty high mark for me. If I were to give it anything else, an 8.5, because I would give Top Gun 2 the highest rating that I would probably anything. But it was it all fit. I thought he did a great job. And if you the last thing that I'll say about that, I know we've got to move on, is it made me go back and watch the first one. I was amazed at how young Tom Cruise looked. It was the Tom Cruise that you would remember from the first Top Gun or A Few Good Men or something like that. I was like, holy crap. And it also was a reminder to me of how old I'm getting. But few movies motivate you to go back and watch that many leading up to what you just saw. But this Mission Impossible movie does that. So congratulations to Tom Cruise and everybody who worked on that movie. They did a great job. If you haven't seen it, I would highly encourage you to go see it.
For sure. Mission Impossible is definitely the franchise most people should go check out. If you haven't seen the first movie, and like you mentioned, yes, it does reference a lot from the first movie in the final record, because everything leads up to this. And that's what makes this movie so special. And yes, Tom Cruise, amazing actor. He should be given a key to the movie industry. He brings so much, hype, anticipation. His work ethic is unbelievable. This is what we should have in our movie industry, is someone who can motivate us, be a leader to this studio franchise. And sooner or later, I believe Tom Cruise is going to, when he gets older, we're going to look back on that and say, all the things that he's done. And, he'll still think to himself, like, he can still do it. He can still keep going. He's getting old, but age doesn't matter to him. He'll still want to keep doing it.
It will soon.
Mm-hmm. And then, all right. And speaking about after Mission Impossible, so we're going to move on the topic a little bit. We're going to talk about Tom Cruise, about his new development projects, which is, one, he got a script for Top Gun 3, or Top Gun 3, just let's call it that. We don't know the new title yet. And then let's just say there's rumors going on saying Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie, the director of Mission Impossible, are in development for a Les Grossman Tropic Thunder movie. So my thoughts are, how do you feel about a Les Grossman movie or a Tropic Thunder sequel about Tom Cruise's character of Les Grossman?
Okay, Tropic Thunder, let's talk about that real quick. It's a Jackass movie. It reminds me of The Naked Gun. Don't go into this thing thinking that there's some kind of a storyline here that you're going to watch. You're going to go and laugh, hopefully. If you do, it's a success. If you don't, it was a complete, utter waste of your time. Tropic Thunder was one of those movies that parts of it were a waste of my time. Other parts were iconic as far as comedy goes. They were good. As far as being iconic, it's that, what was it? Les Grossman, was that his name? Tom Cruise's character's name? Yeah. So it was definitely one of those. I laughed not only at the comedy, but the fact that it was Tom Cruise doing it. Again, we think of him as playing the attorney, the fighter pilot, the spy, so to speak, with Mission Impossible, things like that. The Alien movie that he had, stuff like that. More serious action, drama. This was a step up from him. Tom Cruise is funny because he's just, his personality is funny in some of those other movies and the lines he had. This is a total step out for him to play this character, and he did it great, marvelously. I I'll go watch it, but I will not have high expectations. I'll do it hoping to get a few laughs while I watch it, and then after talking about it with you and anybody else. But good for him to try to step out of what we typically see him doing. If they do that, like I said, I'll go. They'll get my money. Expectations are low, but except for wanting to laugh there and a little bit after. But I'm not going because I think there's some storyline that's going to somehow touch me.
That's understandable. I mean, you got to get the story right before you can start sending it into Paramount or any studio who owns the Tropic Thunder movie. If Tom Cruise has an idea and he wants to get his fat hands in and he wants to start going bald and start doing his dance sequence like in the ending of the movie, then I'm all for it. If him and Christopher McQuarrie have an idea, great, let's make it happen. And, you know, Les Grossman was our favorite character watching this movie. So hopefully we'll see his return, hopefully next year or two when they get the movie ready. All right, so we're going to end this show off with the movies coming out this weekend. And one of those movies is Karate Kid Legends, which I'm wearing the shirt. And if you haven't seen the Cobra Kai series, definitely check it out on Netflix. And then we have Bring Her Back, which is a horror movie that I saw on the Mystery Movie Monday. So first off, let's talk about the Karate Kid Legends. So my thoughts are, since you went into a generation of seeing the Karate Kid movies from the 1980s, and now all of a sudden it's coming back to this generation, but with a new sort of format to the Cobra Kai series, and now we finally got a new Karate Kid Legends movie that takes place 3 years after, with Ralph Macchio returning and Jackie Chan from the remake with Jaden Smith. So what are your thought process on this new movie?
Well, you're right. I did grow up with that. I grew up in the 80s, so we grew up with Ralph Macchio playing the Karate Kid and Mr. Miyagi, Elizabeth Shue is the girlfriend. So I think, so first of all, and here we are in 2025. He just came off of a series with Johnny. It was a success. It went, I don't remember how many seasons, 6 maybe. And so first, congratulations, big success with the Karate Kid. I will also say that this is starting to feel like a rubber band to me, and it's about ready to stretch about as far as it can. I don't think that there's any danger in doing this because Karate Kid is kind of like etched in concrete at this point. We know what it is. So even if this flops, you know, his character in the series of Karate Kid and what it is iconic. That's not going to change. So I think there's low risk. I think it'll make some money. I think my generation will definitely go see it. Yours is definitely going to go see this. So it's a high gain, low risk. I don't have tremendous expectations. We haven't seen Jackie Chan for a while. So to see him on the screen is similar to seeing some of the old characters from the Karate Kid come back from the different movies like Chosen and things like that. So, okay. If there's a story there, go make it. You're going to get my money again. The expectations are high. I think it's low risk for them, and it brings a potential high gain. So, and Ralph Macchio, you know, he's kind of now he's the Karate Kid now, right? So he's Danielson. He's done some other things, but this is what he's known for. So he's embraced it, and it's his go-to. And good luck.
That is a really good way to put his, you know, introduction and his ending to this. So, you know, congrats on that way. But anyway, yeah, Ralph Macchio definitely was a really good actor when he was in the Cobra Kai and the Karate Kid, the Karate Kid from your timeline. You know, looking at him now, it's just a whole different, you know, look on Daniel. And so since we're going to see him on Karate Kid Legends, it should be very fascinating to see how he does when he's training this young kid who's played by Ben Wang, who's like a new coming actor. Looks like he's going to, you know, be like the next kid that ends up, you know, joining the whole universe of the Cobra Kai. But we will see when the movie comes out. It should be very fun. And Jackie Chan, obviously, we haven't seen him in a while. I can remembering watching him with the Rush Hour movies, and those were really fun. And you know, the big question I would ask for Jackie if he's ever listening: will you make a Rush Hour 4? Please, can we just get another one? Too funny. But all right, that's all I'm gonna say about the Karate Kid. Can't wait to see it this weekend. That's why I got my shirt on. If you haven't seen Cobra Kai, go watch it. Please do it. Moving on to Bring Her Back. So this is a horror movie that is directed by the Philippou brothers, who their first feature debut was Talk to Me, and it was very successful for A24. So this movie was a really like high into the horror aspect with supernatural and very crazy demons type. But I can't really talk about more about this because I want you to see this. But what is your thoughts on the horror movie genre to this generation?
I don't know. I'm always cautious about going to see the horror movies, not because of any blood and guts or scary surprises or anything like that. That's what makes horror movies what they are. I've always given horror movies. I usually give the credit of horror movies to the makeup department, right? They're the ones that really make horror movies work. Without them, you don't really have horror movies. You just have boo movies, and that's about it. So I've always been partial to movies that have somebody else's truth, you know, based on a true story of somebody else's accounting, or something that has biblical connotation to it. To me, is more interesting. It would make me want to do more research on it and learn more. I grew up in the era of Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, and Freddy Krueger. So, and I went and watched all of those, but I knew what it was. You know, this is obviously complete horseshit, you know, but it was something. It's amazing how far we've come from with that makeup department, with what they did with those series versus what they do now. It's just amazing. But so I don't know. I'd have to think about whether I go out and see this a little bit more. I'll need to do a little bit more research. But typically when it comes to horror movies, first I give the credit more than anything to the makeup department. And second of all, my interest goes to more of the area that somebody else's truth, somebody else's based on their true story, or something with biblical connotation to it. That's what spikes my interest. So we'll see about this one.
That's good. I'm glad that you enjoy the kind of horrorness that brings up to our generation. And I agree with the old movies that you grew up with Jason, Freddy Krueger, and all these types of horror icons are now being sort of like I would say inspiration towards our generation. And so now they're coming up with some cool original horror ideas, some really cool elements that gives horror fans a taste of what's to come. And we see original movie that was a horror movie we recently watched called Sinners, and we both like that movie. I like the adaptation of it being like a metaphor about something that, you know, like when one of the preacher dads said, line he says, and he says, "You keep dancing with the devil, one day he's going to follow you home." And
Right.
that kind of shook me to this day, where it's like, oh, and if you haven't seen this movie, there's a thing that tells you what happens. And the vampire for it, who's Irish, I thought was really good in that movie. And
Yeah,
the music is phenomenal.
I would say you took me to see that movie, and I had no idea what we were watching. I just went in. The only thing I knew that it was Michael B. Jordan. I would say that's a movie that it was really it had two parts to it. The first one was, you know, about how they got folks to how they got people together when they were opening up their casino bar, if you will. And then all of a sudden it broke into this vampire movie. So I was like, what the hell am I watching here? But the only thing I would add to that is I've seen Michael B. Jordan, obviously, in Creed, which is what I know him for the most. I think he's a great actor. He was in Black Panther as the villain. He played that great. But this one, he had to play two different roles. It was twin brothers. I don't think I'm giving anything away there. You learned that in the very first scene. And they're distinctly different. And so I think he probably did his best acting on that role in that movie Sinners, and I think he deserves to at least be nominated for an Academy for that. So we'll see what happens, but yeah, he did a great job.
Agreed. Michael B. Jordan, Good job. I'm proud of the things that you've accomplished, and he reminds me of so much of hard work ethic actors. You look at Denzel Washington, and the late Chadwick Boseman, which we all know was an amazing actor. But Michael B. Jordan, he's going to be the next stepping stone for years to come. We're excited to see what he can do in the future of movies, so looking forward to it. Well, that's how we're going to end our show. Thank you so much, Deb, for coming on to my show. This is Doug Merrill, former Fox Sports Radio host, and me, Andrew, with Rate the Brim Productions, and saying thank you, goodbye, have a good day, and can't wait to talk to you more soon about movies and news events we got planned. All right, take care. Have a wonderful day.
Nothing's gonna ever keep you down. You're the best.